Imagine losing your child and seeing the person who destroyed your life walk free. Would you stay silent or confront them? Today you're about to witness a confrontation that shook an entire courtroom. The parents of a young boy had spent years trapped in a cycle of grief, anger, and quiet desperation. Every morning they woke up to a world that felt empty, as if a part of their soul had been ripped away and left behind in the darkness of their home. Simple things, the laughter of other children in the park, the smell of freshly baked bread, the sound of the wind through the trees, reminded them of what they had lost. Each moment carried a sharp sting, a cruel reminder that their boy would never come back, never speak his first words again, never grow into the man they had dreamed he would become. For years, they had clung to the hope of justice, though it was a fragile hope, constantly tested by delays, setbacks, and the cold machinery of the law. Court dates were postponed, evidence went missing, and the system seemed indifferent to their suffering. They were exhausted, emotionally raw, and yet they could not turn away. Every night, they would replay the last moments with their son in their minds, trying to understand, try to make sense of something that made no sense at all. And every night, sleep came fitfully, broken by memories that refused to rest, by cries that echoed in the empty rooms of their hearts. Then, after years of waiting, the day finally came. The man responsible for their son's death was brought into the courtroom. Time seemed to slow as he walked in, every step echoing through the vast, silent space. He looked ordinary, just another man, but to them he was a monster, a living reminder of the unimaginable cruelty that had been inflicted upon their family. The parents froze for a moment, their eyes locked on him. The air felt heavy, charged with tension, and the world outside the courtroom ceased to exist. There was no noise, no movement, nothing but the suffocating presence of the man who had taken everything from them. Their emotions surged uncontrollably. Anger, a raw and searing fire, burned through them. How could someone be so cruel, so indifferent, so utterly heartless? How could a human being commit acts that destroyed lives so completely, so irreversibly? Grief followed close behind, a wave that threatened to drown them in its depth. Their hearts ached with every memory of their boy, the small hands that once reached for theirs, the giggles that filled the house, the tender moments that were now lost forever. And disbelief that this man had walked free, that life could continue as if nothing had happened, while they had been left to pick up the pieces of a broken world. Every eye in the courtroom was fixed on them, and the man before them. The room was a stage, the moment a crucible of human emotion. You could see it in their trembling hands, the way their fingers gripped the edge of the table, as if holding onto the last threads of their composure. You could see it in their hearts, pounding with a rhythm that matched the unspoken question hanging in the air. Would justice finally feel complete? Would the pain that had consumed them for so long be acknowledged, even if it could never be erased? The silence was unbearable. Every breath, every shuffle of feet, every soft whisper seemed amplified, echoing off the walls like a chorus of their collective despair. And then, slowly, the silence was broken, not by yelling or screaming, but by the quiet, deliberate truth that unfolded in front of them. Words were spoken, measured and precise, carrying with them the weight of a law, the weight of morality, and the weight of human conscience. Yet no words could truly capture the depth of their loss, the intensity of their fury, or the complexity of their sorrow. In that courtroom, time seemed suspended. Moments stretched into eternity, and the parents felt every second with excruciating clarity. They remembered the first day they had held their boy, the warmth of his small body, the softness of his hair, the innocence in his eyes. They remembered the laughter that once filled their home, the songs they sang together, the stories told at bedtime. And now they were forced to confront the man who had stolen all of it, the man whose actions had rewritten the course of their lives in a way that could never be undone. Their gaze never wavered. They looked at him not as a stranger, not as a man with a name and a past, but as the embodiment of their grief, the focal point of every nightmare they had endured. And yet, beneath the anger, there was a strange clarity. Years of pain had distilled into a sharp focus. Every word, every glance, every subtle gesture carried meaning. They saw through the facade, through the mundane appearance of the man, and confronted the reality of his deeds. Even the courtroom observers felt it, the electricity in the air, the unspoken narrative of sorrow and righteous anger. You could sense the tension, thick and suffocating, like a storm about to break. The parents' hands shook, yes, but not from fear alone. They trembled with the intensity of emotions that words could never fully convey. Their hearts pounded, a rhythm of grief and defiance intertwined, each beat a declaration that their child mattered, that his life and his memory could not be erased, that justice, however delayed, was still demanded. As the legal proceedings continued, the parents remained unwavering. Their eyes followed every movement, their ears caught every word, their very being absorbed every detail. They were both vulnerable and unyielding, a paradox of human emotion made manifest. And in that silence, punctuated only by the procedural formalities of the court, the parents' presence spoke louder than anything that could be written on paper or uttered in speech. It was a moment of confrontation, yes, but also of reckoning. A reckoning with the fragility of life, with the cruelty that humans are capable of, and with the resilience required to face such cruelty. The courtroom, once just a room of judgment and procedure, had become a theater of human emotion, a place where grief and fury collided, where sorrow demanded recognition, and where the unspoken question of justice hung like a specter over everyone present. And through it all, their love for their son remained the guiding force. Every memory, every heartbeat, every tear shed in private or in public was a testament to a life that had been stolen but never forgotten. Their hands might tremble, their hearts might ache, but their presence, their unwavering focus, their refusal to be broken, spoke volumes about the power of parental love, the depth of human resilience, and the enduring quest for justice. By the time the proceedings moved forward, every person in the courtroom had felt it, the weight of loss, the intensity of confrontation, and the subtle, undeniable truth that sometimes the strongest voices are those that speak not in anger alone, but in the measured, unwavering acknowledgement of what was taken, and the courage to face it head-on. They faced him directly, the man who had altered their lives in ways no one could ever undo. Their voices trembled, but there was a steel in their tone that could not be broken. Every word they spoke carried not just the weight of years of suffering, but the intensity of love that had been forged and tempered in the crucible of loss. Every glance exchanged between them was a silent conversation, a mixture of grief, anger, sorrow, and an unshakable determination that the memory of their child would never fade. It was a confrontation unlike any other, not just between individuals, but between the raw force of human emotion and the cold, impersonal machinery of the law. In that moment, the courtroom transformed. What had been a room filled with chairs, tables, and legal documents became a stage where most intimate, raw, and visceral human feelings were on display. Spectators leaned forward, as if drawn by an invisible force, unable to look away. They could feel the tension pressing down on them, a heavy weight that seemed to thrum in the air with every breath. The parents' presence dominated the room, not through noise or theatrics, but through the quiet intensity of their emotions, the gravity of their gaze, and the unwavering resolve that their son's life, though lost, demanded acknowledgement. It wasn't merely the words they spoke that held power, it was the pauses between them, the catch in their breaths, the subtle shaking of hands, the way their eyes glistened with unspoken memories. Each pause was heavy with meaning, each glance a window into a world that outsiders could scarcely comprehend. You could see in their movements the countless sleepless nights, the unending questions that haunted them, the moments when the world seemed unbearably cruel. And yet, there they were, standing tall, confronting the person who had wrought so much pain, refusing to crumble under the weight of it all. The man they confronted seemed small in comparison, not in stature, but in presence. Years of deliberation, reflection, and inner torment had shaped these parents into warriors of grief, and in that courtroom, their strength eclipsed everything else. Every word they spoke was carefully chosen, measured, deliberate. They did not shout. They did not demand vengeance in a chaotic outburst. Instead, they wielded their emotions with precision, turning grief into clarity, anger into resolve, and sorrow into undeniable presence. Every statement, every subtle inflection, every trembling syllable carved the narrative of loss, courage, and the enduring demand for justice into the consciousness of everyone present. Observers could feel the courtroom shift. The air seemed heavier, charged with the raw energy of confrontation and reflection. The parents' faces, etched with years of sorrow, radiated a kind of quiet authority, an unspoken message that they would not be diminished by the actions of another. Their voices, though shaking, resonated with a clarity that demanded attention. Every glance between them was a testament to the shared pain and love for the child who would never grow up, whose absence lingered like a shadow over their lives. The emotions in that room were palpable, a silent electricity that bound everyone together in the recognition of tragedy and the endurance of the human spirit. This wasn't just a legal battle. It was a test of courage, of humanity, and of what it means to stand firm in the face of unthinkable loss. It was a testament to the strength required to face someone who had caused unimaginable harm, and to do so without losing the dignity, love, and humanity that tragedy so often threatens to erase. Every word spoken by the parents was a message, not just to the man who had caused their pain, but to the world itself, that life may be cruel, but resilience, courage, and unwavering love could transcend even the deepest sorrow. As the gavel finally fell, signaling the court's judgment, the silence that followed was not empty. It was profound. It was as if the room itself had taken a breath, acknowledging the weight of the confrontation, the courage displayed, and the gravity of the moment. The courtroom wasn't just silent, it was transformed. Every person present felt the shift, the recognition that what had transpired was more than a legal proceeding. It was a human story of grief, resilience, and the complex tapestry of justice and morality. In the aftermath, the parents stood quietly, their hearts heavy, yet strengthened. There was no joy, no laughter, only a solemn recognition that while their son would never return, they had faced the impossible with courage and integrity. They had transformed their grief into action, their sorrow into a presence so compelling that no observer could remain unaffected. Justice, in its truest sense, had been sought, not solely in punishment, but in confrontation, acknowledgement, and the unwavering assertion of humanity in the face of tragedy. And as they left the courtroom, their steps measured, their heads held high, it was clear that this moment would linger far beyond the walls of that room. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, human courage, love, and the determination to face pain head-on could shine through. That sometimes, justice isn't about revenge or retribution. It is about standing tall when everything has been taken, about facing the impossible with unwavering resolve, and about carrying the memory of those lost forward, not with despair, but with strength, dignity, and the quiet power of an unbroken heart. The parents walked out of the courtroom, their hearts heavy but unbroken. The man who had caused them so much pain remained, yet something had shifted. They had faced the impossible, stared into the eyes of grief and anger, and refused to be defeated. Their courage spoke louder than any verdict, louder than any words. Sometimes justice isn't measured by punishment alone. It's measured by the strength to stand, the love that survives loss, and the resilience to carry forward when everything has been taken. And in that silence, one truth remained. Even in tragedy, the human spirit can shine brighter than the darkest pain. What would you do if you were in their shoes? Could you find the courage to face the unimaginable? Think about that. And remember, some battles are won not in the courtroom, but in the heart.